Yeah.
I felt like so nosy. I let
No.
Jolene know that.
Okay, we are all reset and ready to go. We're down to item number 11, which is a discussion about reclaimed water into the Rio de Flag. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Sterling Solomon, your city attorney. This resolution is something that's been awaited for quite some time. I'm very excited about it. I know you are too, because it came up several times during the last item. It was mentioned quite a few times. It will allow for long-term improvement of the local riparian habitat and wildlife enhancement, maintaining of what we have here, and even improvement of the same. So a little bit of history it's based on, and I don't have a presentation to share, which is good because the AV system is out, but it's based on and commits the city to longer term promises that were made in an agreement in 2010 with the Arizona Game and Fish Department. That agreement was for 20 years, so it expires in 2030, in just a few years here. And the city obviously sees the community benefit to preserving and enhancing riparian habitat and wildlife areas, subject to, as you referenced, Vice Mayor Sweet, reclaimed water availability and advanced water purification technology. Obviously, this resolution will allow for that longer-term release of reclaimed water, but only when it's not subject to availability issues. And if we get down the road to that advanced water purification point someday, we would be able to pull back from this as well. So the city, under this commitment, averages a weekly release of 200 gallons per minute of reclaimed water. 100 gallons per minute of that weekly release comes from Wildcat Hill Wastewater Treatment Facility, and it goes into the Rio de Flag near Picture Canyon. 100 gallons per minute comes from the Rio de Flag Wastewater Treatment Plant and goes into the Rio de Flag near the wetlands that were referenced by Lee in the last item. 50 of those 200 gallons are committed to Francis Short Pond, but only when available to maintain sufficient water levels during summer months. And I'm going to pause there for a moment because the resolution that was included in the agenda did not include that language. Somewhere in one of the drafts, unfortunately, we missed that it fell out, but it's going back in. The draft that you will see next week will actually read in the recitals a weekly hourly average of 50 gallons per minute of the 200 gallons per minute commitment will go into Francis Short Pond when available to maintain sufficient water levels during summer months. It's just during those summer months to maintain sufficient water levels. That'll be added into the recital language as well. So that will be accurate and consistent with what was in the bow and arrow agreement. That phrase, when available, comes directly from the bow and arrow agreement. The city will continue to grant public access to these lands near the outfalls for this reclaimed water, so the watchable wildlife can be watched and that those spaces can improve. The city will continue to obtain the proper permitting and perform monitoring pursuant to state law and ADEQ requirements. And the city obviously won't commit this reclaimed water or will refrain from selling it to anyone else or conveying ownership of it to anyone else. It's feasible. This long-term release is feasible, and staff recommends the resolution. It's Resolution 2025-51, authorizing this long-term release, obviously, again, subject to availability and the related advanced water purification matters if that comes up in the future. But that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I do want to say before I open it up for questions, special thank you to Rebecca Sayers and also to Lee Williams. They've been involved in this, and also Nicole Antonopoulos, she's been involved long-term, and this is a great day to get this across the finish line when it's adopted at the next meeting, in my opinion.
Councilmember Spence.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you clarify for me how this 200 gallons per minute quantity compares to acre feet?
Ooh, I'm not the math nerd that can figure that out. That's why I went to law school. Oh, Lee walked away. I guess he's not the math nerd either. Oh, he's going to calculate that.
I have another question while he's getting a calculator, and that is the Francis Short Pond, is that a subtraction from the 200 gallon or an additional? So are we talking about a 250 gallon per minute total?
Right, it's actually part of the 200. It says of the weekly average of 50 gallons per minute, or sorry, a weekly average of 50 gallons per minute is of the 250 gallons per minute. So it's part of it including. Yeah.
And while we're waiting, I got lost in whether there's a termination date for this agreement, and is there an escape clause specifically written in case the advanced purification need presents itself?
Another council would simply need to rescind the resolution, and that would be the escape clause at that point. It's a matter of policy in place once this resolution is passed and adopted by council, and it stays unless and until advanced water purification comes online or reclaimed water simply isn't as available as we thought, and then we can look at rescission. 322 acre feet. 322 acre feet per year? Annually, yeah.
Councilmember Aslan.
Thank you. Hi, Sterling. I've got the resolution pulled up here. The I-40 wetlands, this is downstream from the Sinclair Wash area, right?
Correct.
So we're not talking about that project, which includes filling up Sinclair Wash from Lone Tree on down into those wetlands there. I'm pretty sure that's what we're not doing. I just wanted to make the comment that this is fantastic. I'm really excited about it. This is how we should be using our reclaimed water. And I'm glad we're allocating for this, and I hope we can get, I see Mr. Byer there in the audience. It was way back in 2018 or 2019 when I was new on council. We walked that Sinclair Wash area, and his vision of a perennial stream there feeding into those wetlands is one that I still share to this day, and it's been an up and down fight over the years with some various staff coming and going. I hope that's still on track to become a part of this larger vision and the continuity there, and just giving it a shout out really, because it seems like an appropriate time to do so. But meanwhile, these 3 discharges, very excited about, love to see it happen.
So I appreciate you mentioning that. Mayor and council, section 1, subsection I actually references the city's willingness to consider providing additional effluent or reclaimed water for additional outfalls. Sinclair Wash was one of them by name, but there could be others as well as we move forward. That was the purpose behind that language.
Any other questions or comments? I'm going to take some public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. The aforementioned Dr. Paul Byer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Pleased to be here. Mostly, I'm here representing Friends of the Rio de Flag, and we strongly support this effort by Parks, Recreation, and Open Space to keep these water flows happening. So we want to maintain this forever without demanding additional money or land from Arizona Game and Fish or anybody else. It's just an amenity for all of us to enjoy. These areas are, as people have mentioned, they're important for wildlife, for riparian plants, fishing. They're tremendously popular with citizens and visitors. So it's a great use of our reclaimed water. So the current contract requires these rather specific volumes of water releases at these 3 areas. And I guess I just want to say that we are open, Friends of the Rio, to tweaking some of that and maybe decreasing it during some parts of the year. Because we live in an environment that would get no rain in May and June. You know, so it's not the end of the world if some of these riparian areas that are important, and I love them, and I want them to continue forever. But I think we do have some flexibility, and we would like to let the city have that flexibility to do better things with water. We do, however, demand, I guess, that there be some scientific study, that we don't just say, okay, we're going to stop it all in May and June. Do some real research to show that this can maintain these beautiful riparian areas and help us expand like Sinclair Wash flows. So with that, you know, I do think it'd be fine to have no releases for some days in May or June, but let's do the research, not just turn off the spigot. I guess that's it. Oh, and I guess I will just, I want to praise the real estate developers. I was here, the folks here who are dropping their plan to build a big new championship golf course. Just what a wonderful thing for a real estate developer to do. It just made me want to almost cry. That, especially that Little America has become, I won't use a word, but they've become very uncooperative after 50 years of allowing people to walk across their property. 50 years. Everybody knew this would be the new Arizona Trail, and now they're saying no. So it's a good luck. Thank you.
Dr. Byer? Dr. Byer? Excuse me, Councilmember Aslan has a question.
Hi, Paul. I just wanted to ask you more about this research idea. Do you have any thoughts on where to go for that, how to fund it, whether it could use university students, what it would look like?
Yeah, I really don't. I'm not a hydrologist, you know, but I think that's what they do. You know, they can tell us what the repercussions of dropping waters for a month or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And our hydrology is complicated because we do have these cracks in our limestone, and the water goes 1,100 feet down. You know, so just to say we're going to turn it off is not smart, you know. But I do think there probably are some good, there are hydrologists, there are people who study this. And I think we should ask them to help us come up with a good solution that will create these beautiful riparian areas and allow the city some flexibility. So. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Phillips.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council people. I had very rarely spoken up here, so excuse me, I don't have much to say except that I am a botanist and I've been in Flagstaff almost 50 years, working at the Museum of Northern Arizona and U.S. Forest Service in both rare plants and invasive plants. And I know, I'm very familiar with Picture Canyon coming across the channelization during a Christmas bird count where we were walking in the snow and all of a sudden we realized we could not cross that 10-foot deep, 10-foot wide channel there, and have watched carefully the reconstruction of the whole Picture Canyon area. Picture Canyon was instrumental for us to start the weed management program in Northern Arizona. We had from the Forest Service angle, we had started a San Francisco Peaks weed management area, which encompassed all the land above the rim, most of over to the Kaibab National Forest, and most of the Coconino, except for below the rim in that weed management area. And we got a lot of grants and went out and surveyed in the forests and also in the city. We got some more grants most recently. We had a $320,000 grant that was run through the Arboretum at Flagstaff, which included the city lands between the Eldon Lookout Road and Route 66 and with Route 180 on the west side. And currently, I am working with Rosemary Logan of the university on capstone projects. You asked about research, and this has come in as a result of the flooding in the Rio de Flag. The students are working on the Schultz Creek drainage, trying to learn to understand what went on there through the museum property and the city land and private land. And also we're working with the mainstream of the area through Cheshire. And with some of the invasive species, we have a new invasive thistle that we didn't recognize that was in the Cheshire area now. So we're continuing to do research like that, and I'm very glad that Francis Short Pond is part of it, because I own a little conservation land out in Schweitzer Drainage, and my osprey go to Francis Short Pond, and they raised 3 young this year on Francis Short Pond fish. So I just want to say I support all this, and I want to remind people that we have this issue of Plateau that was done by the Museum of Northern Arizona. It's a 2014-15 issue, so it's now 10 years old. Some people have forgotten about it, but it's very detailed about everything about Picture Canyon, from the history of it to the current day of 2014-15, but all the restoration that was done there.
Thank you so much. Will you say again what issue that was?
I can look at it real quick. It's volume 8, numbers 1 and 2, 2014 and 2015. And you'll find it's just an amazing issue. It'll give you all the history of Picture Canyon.
Thank you. And Barb, most everything I know about native plants and about invasive species, I learned from you. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you included native plants. I'm fond of native plants, too.
All right, that's all the comment that we have. Council, any addition, Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Just real quick, I wanted to offer my support. I think this is a great community asset, and especially knowing that it is subject to general availability and advanced water purification technologies. I think it's good. Thank you.
Anyone else? I think that we are all in agreement. Please, someone shake your head if that is not the case, but I think we're all in agreement. Thank you. All right, moving down to open call to the public. I do not see any open call, so we will go with number 13, informational items, 2 from mayor, council, and city manager, future agenda item requests. Let's start with Councilmember Spence.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, I was able to represent the council at the 2-day Los Donados blood drive that was held by the Red Cross of Northern Arizona. They are coming back to Northern Arizona to do blood drives, and this particular 2-day drive was aimed at the Hispanic community, which is typically somewhat underrepresented in the blood donor community. And I just want to remind the council and the public that most people can donate blood every 2 months, whole blood, or every 4 months for what they call Power Red. So more blood donations are needed on an ongoing basis. I would also like to remind council that on October 1st, from 1 to 2:30, there will be an online briefing on the Tucson study of alternatives to the investor-owned electric utility. That study showed some very interesting results that could be applicable to Flagstaff in the future, and this everybody got an invitation to sign up for this October 1st, 1 to 2:30. I highly recommend it. It's going to be a way to understand what the Tucson study showed and what possible benefit it might bring to Flagstaff if we get the opportunity. Thank you.
Councilmember House.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe a week and a half ago, I was able to attend the National Indian Health Board's National Tribal Health Conference in Phoenix. It was as part of my work outside of council, but also spoke very much to things that we see in our community when it comes to not only caring for our tribal relatives and neighbors' health, but also just community health in general. So I would encourage folks to head to the National Indian Health Board website, which is just nihb.org, to learn more about many of the resources that they have available throughout the nation and some of the focus areas for our state. I also wanted to just put save the date out there for folks for the Voices Unheard Breaking the Silence community gathering that's coming up in October. That will be October 22nd from 8:30 to 3:30 at the Coconino Center for the Arts. It's going to be a very important community conversation, and just encourage folks to attend if you are able.
Vice Mayor.
I have some fun things. I attended the employee barbecue and picnic, and I know we talked about dunking Amy and Lee, but we forgot to mention that we had Shannon Anderson in there as well, and I was able to dunk her. It's pretty fun. She had goggles on. It was really cute. Saturday, I attended the NAU football game, and it was Lumberjacks for the win. That was very fun. And I did sit on the FLP panel on, I believe it was Thursday, and we talked about ethics in politics and in the workplace, and it was a pretty good conversation. Jake Bacon was in attendance. He's always fun to talk with. And Sunday, there is a Get to Know Your Neighbor event at Market of Dreams, and I'll be attending that. It's in the afternoon, and I'm sorry I don't have the exact time, but it's an all-afternoon event, and I will be there. Thanks.
1 o'clock to 5 o'clock.
Thank you.
Councilmember Aslan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Council, I'd like to thank you all in advance here tonight for indulging me as I share some thoughts on a topic that's very important to me and rather time sensitive. I'll only take a few minutes of your time, if I may, and I am, of course, only speaking for myself here. So, I attended a recent presentation of Northern Arizona Healthcare's 2030 strategic plan, where NEH reiterated their commitment to building a new regional facility. At that time, I was able to ask NEH leadership to seriously consider building their new hospital in place. I asked them to explain why they can't modernize the hospital we already have. And that back and forth was great. It was very respectful, but it was insufficient and incomplete, and I've been thinking back on it a lot lately. And I've been wanting to make a case more convincingly. Meanwhile, I feel NEH needs to better explain to the concerned public precisely why the hospital must move. Their reasoning remains enigmatic to me and to many in Flagstaff. Most importantly, though, here, I want to officially come forward in the most appropriate forum that I have as a Flagstaff City Council member to encourage NEH leadership and board to give its most serious consideration to the option of building in place. And I want to pledge to the full extent that I'm able to within my role to support helping to make this critically important outcome achievable. And let's be clear, I'm also here to challenge the community tonight that they'll need to embrace the strategies deemed necessary by NEH that'll make that feasible. At the 2030 strategic plan presentation, NEH announced they're conducting an analysis of 5 sites and plan to give a final recommendation to its board by the end of 2025. Hence the urgency here. The current campus is one of the considerations, though CEO Dave Cheney stresses he remains skeptical that staying put is feasible. Unfortunately, the other 4 locations under consideration have never been disclosed to the public. Mr. Cheney and the NEH leadership team have repeatedly emphasized their reasoning behind why building in place faces steep challenges. I'm happy to share them. The existing campus is aging. Much of its infrastructure is outdated and inefficient. Renovations would require closing portions of the hospital, potentially disrupting care. Even with upgrades, they argue, the footprint is too small to meet future demand. A new facility would be more efficient, flexible, and financially viable over the long term. Rebuilding in place works better in denser urban cores where care can be distributed among other local hospitals. These are not trivial concerns. I hear them and I intuitively understand them. I also share an urgency around the need to act. Healthcare in Flagstaff must evolve to meet the needs of a growing, aging population. The current hospital is not sufficient for today's needs, and it's not poised to meet the challenges the future will bring. Nevertheless, I was then, and I still remain unconvinced that building in place can't be done. The obstacles are design challenges, challenges that can be overcome with creativity, willpower, and collaboration. I'm here to argue that our community is ready and willing to make concessions and to have the patience necessary that gets us all to a viable build-in-place pathway. All across the country, hospitals with aging infrastructure and historic urban environments have learned how to build vertically, to use modular construction techniques, to acquire adjacent parcels, and to redesign circulation patterns. I have a bunch of examples of those that are in a longer document I won't read here to you, but I do plan on publishing those soon. NEH's 2030 strategic plan identifies 4 imperatives. They are put people and community first, advance clinical excellence, grow reach, and achieve financial and organizational stability. It also promises to ground the decisions they make in the feedback of more than 4,000 community members who participated in listening sessions and surveys. If NEH is serious about these imperatives, to me the path forward is clear. Putting people and community first means respecting the community's loud, repeated calls to stay in place. Advancing clinical excellence means learning from best practices around the nation that prove renovation and vertical expansion can deliver state-of-the-art care. Growing reach means improving services, not abandoning their current home. And achieving financial stability means avoiding enormous risky costs of building from scratch on a new site. The people of Flagstaff deserve a say in how healthcare is delivered and where it's located. As a council member, I want to leave no rock unturned to tackle the challenge of building in place from every angle I can within my legal rights and my responsibilities. That means being open to supporting zoning changes, helping to facilitate the right conversations about street closures, traffic rerouting, and acquisition of relevant adjacent parcels. The underutilized property behind Bashes presents an opportunity for expansion, for example, and the current FMC campus is fragmented by public streets. We should fully explore how the city of Flagstaff can work with NEH to vacate or reroute 1 or 2 of these streets, knitting the hospital together into a cohesive, buildable footprint. I'm also open to considering approvals for vertical construction that increases capacity without sprawling. Towers can be efficient, patient-centered, and aesthetically compatible with the neighborhood. I believe residents will tolerate the disruption of their view shed to the extent necessary to make building in place realistic, and I would work hard with NEH to convince holdouts to reconsider those hangups. I trust NEH to take very seriously what I know they're hearing as they conduct outreach, a strong desire to stay on Hospital Hill, to build up, not out, to embrace the current decentralized model of care that's already happening, and I have great faith in the old adage, where there's a will, there's a way. And that cuts both ways. So my call to action is really for both NEH and reluctant community members. Let's work together with NEH to support whatever it is they determine they'll need to get to yes on the difficult task of staying in place. Let's shape a healthcare future together that honors our past, serves our present, and secures our shared future on Hospital Hill. Thank you very much for indulging me.
Thank you. Councilmember Garcia.
Maybe that will work. Thank you, Madam Mayor. In in light of Hispanic Heritage Month, I wanted to mention more about Hispanics' pivotal role in the building of Flagstaff, particularly in their booming lumber and railroad industries over the 19th and 20th century. But when we talk about the railroad and we talk about that apparatus of change after the Spanish-American War that had moved across the country, I think it's more important to highlight the fact that in cities like Phoenix, because there just wasn't a lot of people that lived in Flagstaff before Flagstaff was Flagstaff, but in cities like Phoenix, prior to the railroad coming through, 50% of the people that lived there were Hispanic, so they were the majority. And as soon as the railroad came through, of course, they became the minority very quickly. So when we talk about them coming from Mexico to Phoenix, what that meant was they were just living in Phoenix, but prior to that, it was Mexico, and then it was America. So here in Flagstaff, we've seen lots of tight-knit communities built by our Hispanic neighbors that went through that lineage and that line, such as Plaza Vieja, the Sunnyside Farms, and of course the South Side. And these early families persevered through lots of racial discrimination and other shortcomings that came about them around here. When we talk about those racial shortcomings, I want to add a family anecdote. I remember hearing from my grandmother when they made the first restaurant in her area, which wasn't Flagstaff, but it was in northern Arizona. And she would say, they wouldn't allow blacks or browns to go inside of these establishments. And she couldn't figure out for the life of her why anybody would go anywhere else besides your own home to get cooked food, because it couldn't possibly be as good as what they made at their house. So to her, it wasn't like you were keeping them out. She just didn't understand why people would go there to begin with. But it adds to change and how change gets accepted over time. I thank Mayor for reading our proclamation last week about Hispanic Heritage Month, and it makes me think about some of the folks in our past, in our past governments who have made proclamations. The first one by Lyndon B. Johnson, who was a fairly conservative feller, who in 1968 wanted to make sure that there was a proclamation that accepted, some of the atrocities that had happened prior to the 1960s in the name of progress to the Hispanic people. And followed up by Ronald Reagan signing that into law in 1988, I believe. I could be wrong on that date. But again, another fairly conservative feller who was doing the right thing for human rights and human nature. And as we progress, I just want to make sure that we through this month and then beyond, that we keep that focus and that lens of human rights established on not just the Hispanic people, not just the Spanish people, not just the folks that we're relating to, but for each other in general, in human rights in general. And I will have more updates as the month progresses on that. Let me give you a couple of places that I'll be this weekend in case you wanted to come and hang out with me and talk about any issues that are going on here at the city. On Saturday, I'll be at Rev Up Unity's Unity Ride. That's Saturday, September 27th. Come one, come all to meet up at the Marathon gas station heading out towards Fort Valley Road, where we'll be taking a motorcycle ride and or a three-wheeler, or if you want to bring your car, you can bring your car too, because all folks are welcome to this ride. This is Rev Up Unity's director, Anthony Sanchez's ability to get everyone on 2, 3, and 4 wheels together, regardless of what club you belong to, or what type of vehicle that you drive, or what your political or religious stances are. It's a place for everyone is welcome to get together as in fellowship and cruise through northern Arizona and make new friends. This year, this month, Rev Up Unity is highlighting and featuring Thread It Together as the nonprofit that they are supporting. That'll be me on Saturday at 10 a.m. if anybody wants to come out there. Then I'll also be seeing Vice Mayor, and it sounds like Mayor, probably other council members, on Sunday at Get to Know Your Neighbor event. At that event, it will be I'll be taking a role as a storyteller, so I will be telling stories about my life for those who are interested. And it's not just me, there's like 28 other community members taking part in a human library at the Sunnyside Market of Dreams on the 28th, Sunday, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Please stop by and for food, locally sourced food and refreshments and entertainment. Thank you.
Councilmember Matthews.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember House, for mentioning the Voices Unheard. I'm really looking forward to that session and just really listening to all that needs to be said. And Councilmember Garcia for the Getting to Know You, Your Neighbor event. And just on that theme, I'm excited that we've got Indigenous Peoples Day on October 13th again. I know that's a few weeks out, but I look forward to that as we do every year. But all I have to say tonight besides that is, and I have to apologize, I've missed the last two airport commission meetings traveling over the summer. So this may have already been discussed, but I just wanted to put it out there. I don't think it needs to be a fair item, but you know, we hear about the airport needing to be in an enterprise fund, and with one airport, or one airline, it makes it a little hard to ever get to that status, especially when they cut back on flights and stuff, and who knows when we'll get another, hopefully soon, airline. But it seems like an obvious solution. We've talked about it, but I don't see any movement on this. We have 100+ waiting lists for airport or airplane hangars. And we have the acreage out there. And I remember months ago we kind of talked about it, but that seems like a just a very quick solution. I don't think we should be burdened with the operations and maintenance. We already have a hard time keeping up with the O&M that we have now with city-owned property. But that seems like a quick turnaround to send that out there and be leaseholders and just lease out the property. And I would guess, I don't know the numbers of the dollar amounts, but I would think that that would almost be an immediate turnaround of making the airport an enterprise fund by the revenue collected on that. So I just want to say it in public space that, and apologize if we're already halfway there, but we really need to focus on that and bring that sooner than later so we can start bringing in the revenue in the airport. Thank you.
All right, I have a couple things. Congratulations to the winners of the Shoemaker Awards. This is something that Moonshot does every year, except for last year. So Mountain Mojo was the winner of the 2024, and Catalyst Space Technologies was the winner of 2025. And I was there with the Vice Mayor and with Councilmember Aslan and Councilmember Garcia. It was a great event. And if you want to see and read about all of the great companies that are in the city's incubator and accelerator, you can go to moonshotaz.com and click on Flagstaff facilities. I stopped by the Welcome to Flagstaff event put on by Culture Connections, and this was to welcome international students back to NAU for the start of the school year. And the festival keynote for the Flagstaff Festival of Science was great. And the festival runs through this Sunday, the 28th. Again, download the app. The 12th annual Flagstaff Star Party is taking place this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings at Buffalo Park. Thursday and Friday starting at 6. There will be people there with really great telescopes, like big telescopes, not something like I would have in my backyard, but really nice telescopes so that you can view the night sky, and there'll be different talks. And then on Saturday night, the Dark Sky Quartet is going to play in Buffalo Park. And Mountain Line is providing free bus service to Buffalo Park Friday evening is the symphony kickoff of their new season. Saturday is Tinkertopia's Makerspace opening, and this is a space for teens. Their other facility is more geared toward younger children. This is toward teens, and it's on the corner of West and Cedar where United Way and all of those other businesses are. I believe it's 1515 East Cedar Avenue, Suite D2, and that goes from noon to 4. So a lot of awesome things going on in Flagstaff. City Manager, do you have anything?
I do not, but let me check with our country music fan. Shannon, do you have anything?
I think I've said enough.
Joanne? We're good, thank you.
Shannon, can you play us out? All right, we are adjourned.